You're listening to State of Arrest. We've all been hearing a lot about Uber in the media. A lot of suits, whether they're criminal suits filed by state attorneys' offices and jurisdictions throughout the state or the country, or civil actions mainly is what we're hearing a lot about. So I've got Chris O'Toole. He's been on the show before. He's a personal injury attorney here in South Florida, and you like to sue Uber, don't you?
Yeah, well,
you love Uber.
I gotta tell you the truth. I do like to sue Uber,
but you like them at the same time. I mean, not just because you think they're a good company and they've really stepped up.
I think they're a great company.
Yeah.
They are a great company to sue and a great company to work for.
It's almost like I can see it in your eyes, though. So they're all lit up because of the money that you've made from filing claims against Uber. A lot of people don't realize that Uber insures their drivers, right?
They do. They are.
I don't really understand exactly the stages of the policy limits and how it works. And so I figured it'd be good to give our listeners an opportunity to really know what's going on out there.
I'll explain it. There's basically three levels or three stages of coverage with Uber. One is when they're on their way to pick up a passenger and then they get into an accident. Two is when they're passengers in their vehicle and they get into an accident. And three is if the driver does some kind of intentional tort or intentional wrong.
Okay.
Those are the three types.
Oh yeah, I've had to deal with that one, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But they're driving without a passenger, and I get hit by an Uber driver. I'm on my way to court, and I get hit by an Uber driver. There's no passenger.
Right.
And so I'm assuming that I can go after policy limits, provided there's injury, for Uber's coverage.
And that coverage, which one do you think would be the most?
Gosh, that's interesting. An intentional act, I would think, but and then second, of course, would be where they're on the clock and they're carrying a passenger.
That's the second, and the least amount is if there's no passenger, but they're on their way, they've logged into the app, so we can verify they're really working. 50,000 coverage for that one.
See, now that's interesting because that kind of sheds some light, and this isn't my area, personal injury, but it certainly is yours. That's a drastic difference in coverage there, 50,000 as opposed to $1 million. But their Uber driver, while they're working, can still injure someone. But if it's not somebody that hired us, 50,000, right?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I guess what's the justification? I'm sure they don't really explain, do they?
Well, they just changed these rules last year. They used to be just way different. But now, if there's a passenger in there, then if you're hit by an Uber driver, you can get $1 million as a third party, and the passenger can get $1 million too.
Right.
So yeah, but if
it's a roll of the dice for me, I got hit. I was on my way to court. I get hit by an Uber driver, and so as I'm holding my neck, seriously injured, I'm looking to see if there's a passenger in the back, and I'm less concerned whether they're injured or not because there's a heck of a lot more money at stake. 50,000 versus $1 million.
You got it.
That I'm affected by. And based on whether or not their car was occupied, regardless of the fact that they were working either way.
It's amazing, yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah. So if you want to get hit by an
Such
Uber driver,
PR.
make sure it's an Uber driver with a passenger because that's where the big money's at.
What if it's an Uber driver and there's no passenger and they're driving for personal reasons?
Then you get nothing from Uber. And they'll verify that, trust me. They
got you on the app.
They got you on the app. They know when you logged in. So if you're just getting hit by a car that has the little sticker on it, but they're just going to get groceries, you're stuck with their personal insurance policy limit, which oftentimes is $10,000.
I know that somebody called you on the fly that had gotten hit by an Uber driver, and you said something that was interesting. They're like, listen, take your phone and get a picture of them because they're going to be taking that sign down, and lo and behold,
yes,
they got a picture of the Uber driver.
Yeah, we had one where the Uber driver hits my client, smashes his car. This is a big case, and my client had a picture of the Uber driver removing covering the U symbol because they didn't want Uber to know they were in an accident on the clock.
Well, you get them either way because you subpoena the records for the app and you'll catch them. But I guess in negotiating with the adjuster, sending over a picture of that. By the way, hey, we got a photo of it too, not just some records. Hey, it was on the app. Right. That's always makes a difference. Stuff like that gives a little finesse to what you do, doesn't it?
Yeah. Always pull out your camera phone and take a picture because they are sneaky. Some of these drivers.
Yeah.
But I tell you, who's not sneaky is the company. They are.
Yeah, you highly regard the company.
They really are. Yeah.
I was gonna. We said it at the beginning of the segment, but what's your opinion, Chris? there has been a change in the climate, and of course it has to do with the way the company is perceived. I'm assuming we're doing the right thing. We're providing insurance because these are subcontractors, quasi subcontractors, quasi employees. Uber's doing the right thing. You think that they're a great company. Do you think it's because of the new CEO?
Seems like it is. I mean,
does it just juxtapose? Does it parallel that?
It is. Within the last year, these changes have taken place, and within the last year, the CEO has come on board, and I think they're really taking care of the drivers. I've represented drivers too who've been injured, and Uber gives them a disability policy, allows them to make a claim as well if they're injured. So the drivers are taken care of as well.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to remind everybody out there. There's got to be, or I'll tell everyone, there's got to be damages out there when you are going after. If there's a deep pocket, that's great, but there's got to be some level of damages. I mean, I had a criminal case where the defendant actually had his throat slashed by an Uber driver, who really should have been the defendant. But
we call that superficial wound.
Yeah. Everyone, you in the state, you in the state attorney's office, right? But it was close. I mean, because he did use a knife and there was a cut.
That's right.
But it didn't require stitches or anything of that nature. So
if we went after Uber for that, I mean, we could probably get an unlimited amount of money. For example, if he killed your client, Uber's on the hook. There's really no policy for that.
There's no limits because it was an intentional act.
Yeah, maybe intentional with malicious intent or intentional without malicious intent. Either way, he's a driver for Uber, and Uber's on the hook because they didn't do a background search to know his dangerous propensities or whatever.
Now, do you think that they would continue with this knight in shine, this image that they've developed? Do you think that they would accept responsibility for unlimited coverage, or then do you think they'd pull back a little bit and fight you? I mean, you sue.
They're
Uber.
going to fight, yeah.
They fight on those, don't they?
They're going to say it's a rogue driver. There's no way they could have anticipated he would.
We exercise due diligence, but they'll still come up a bit, won't they?
You're still going to get your money, but they're going to fight you a little bit. If you're reasonable, they'll be reasonable.
Right on. Chris, thanks for coming in today. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
My pleasure.
You've been listening to State of Arrest with William Moore. That's me, South Florida attorney, Chris O'Toole, personal injury, right here in Broward County. Thanks for listening.